adults, I would probably still have the instruments, and then I would say, if you're wearing purple, go pick an instrument. If you're wearing green, go pick an instrument. Actually, I would never start with purple because I was in Fort Worth, which is a big purple city. So like half the kids would flood in. I also don't start with pink or blue. But with adults and or youth age. So if you want to pick an instrument, just find one that you feel like you'd like to play. We're going to start by playing Experience Before Analysis, as my music ed professor would say. A couple more sets of notes. There we go. You're welcome. Okay. All right. There you get whatever you want. All right. That's also this game. All right. I'm just going to start playing a groove, and then just join me. Play something that complements the groove in some way that fits into the whole. And we're just going to play and see what happens, all right? Benjamin Britten says that there are three people necessary for musical experience: a composer, a performer, and a listener. And without all three people present, there is no musical experience. With drum circle, You get to be all three at the same time. You're the performer, you're the one playing, you're listening, because it takes an incredible amount of active listening to really understand kind of what you're playing and how it contributes to the whole. And you're the composer, and you're the one creating the rhythm, and that's so rare in most of the musical experiences we offer. Unless we're org trained, we can do like an improv sort of activities in barred instruments, or unless we've done like a Bobby McFerrin circle song improvisation workshop, and even then it's still a little bit mind-boggling, the idea of improvisation. But here you really are getting to get all three at once. You get to be a part of the creative process, and we all live into our calling because we're created in the image of a creator, therefore we are creative. Right? But we don't, and we get all these experiences in art, in visual art to do that, or writing, or even movement, but for some reason music can almost feel a little too daunting that way. So, let's do another one. I started the first groove. Let's have someone else start a groove this time, and we'll listen, and then when you feel like you want to join in, join right in. Anyone can start. So lots of playing, lots of playing. This is a very different kind of experience than an ensemble where there's right notes and wrong notes, right rhythms and wrong rhythms. In fact, I haven't even talked about any percussion technique. My rule is first, do no harm, right? It's a good general for pretty much every profession on the planet. So don't harm yourself by playing too hard. Don't harm the instruments, and don't harm your neighbor's ears. And outside of those three things, pretty much everything else is okay. Are there some more optimal ways to play instruments? Yes. But if you start bogging down into making sure you teach the technique for every instrument before you play, it's not going to be any fun, right? It's like having to learn all the rules to basketball before just give me the ball. Can we just dribble and shoot for a little bit? Just have some fun. So these drums for younger children are great. These are tubanos made by Remo. They work really well because they've got the hole in the bottom, but they've got the notches cut in the feet so that you don't have to lean it. But otherwise, if you're playing a drum like these little djembes, which are really more like a doumbeks than anything, you need to make sure that hole is uncovered. So you can either play it in the lap, you can lean it forward like that. And they even make stands that those bigger instruments can go into that fit really well. And so you're kind of free for younger kids. Older kids and adults can play it, on the floor leaning, but the little ones are just constantly going to fall. So that's a little bit about management. So one of the things I want to do is first just experience it, but also for you to be able to walk away from this going, I can do this in my setting. Putting the instruments kind of in the middle, I like a different variety of all different kinds of sounds, woods, metals, shakers, skins, so you get a rich texture of sound. Multiple times where people can change instruments. The other thing is to make sure you do set the room in a circle. If you've got so many people coming in a too small space in concentric circles, I guess is okay, but really the shape of one circle is better. There's a theology behind that too. There's no beginning and end. There's no front or back. There's no inside or outside. There's just, and it takes each one of us to complete one another, right? So with that in mind, I just want to give us a few of those little things for setup. And then maybe once a time when we get together, I'll highlight one instrument and a couple of playing techniques for that instrument. Okay? So with that in mind, why don't we change instruments? Change it up a little bit. You have to do that a lot. There are many ways to do it. With a small group like this of people that are, not going to blitz the middle. With children, you have to do a few things. One is you put all the instruments back in the middle, and then you call a different color order for choosing the instruments, make sure it's different. Or, that's okay. Or, you sit and you say, okay kids, put the instrument right in front of you on the floor, everybody stand up, and we're going to go clockwise 2 spaces. Those are the best ways to manage it. What you don't say is trade with a friend, because then the same 3 friends get the coolest instrument. Now, all the instruments are cool. I've got some personal favorites. Children, they love the big drums. They think the big drums are cool. But sometimes the leader of the percussion ensemble is not going to play. They're going to play something that cuts, like bells or the gonkogi. I didn't bring those. They're kind of like that, but they've got more of just a more textured sound. That one's a little clean. That's Brazilian. Those are go-go bells. So but that's a way. You want to change it off as much as possible. I have to check myself too, just when I'm assigning in a percussion ensemble, just making sure I don't just give all the boys the big drums and all the girls. You really got to just make sure everybody has access to everything all the time. And so they're just making sure there's multiple times to swap instruments. So with that in mind, let's play. And I just want to show you this is a doumbek that has a tambourine inside it. And it's just kind of, so you kind of play it right here on the side. Cool. With that in mind, someone else start a new groove.
Come on.
I've done one, she's done one. Yeah.
When our kids do not start now.
You are in the judgment-free zone. I'll just say that. You are safe. You are in a safe place. No one's going to go out in the parking lot. Can you believe that rhythm she tried? Oh my goodness. I want a refund from Baylor. Right? This would be a good rhythm to use as an example to teach a lot of things that we can do to vary that groove so the groove doesn't become a rut. And a lot of things you can do as a facilitator, or once the kids have a hang of it, you can have another kid facilitate it. But a few different things that we can do to kind of add some variety where we're not inserting ourselves too much into it. I don't like the facilitators to spend all their time in the middle of the circle, because then it's not a circle anymore. There's one special person and all the rest of us, right? So that's all I can facilitate as much as possible from within the circle instead of inside it. Physical group. You see those, by the way, how dominant that is? So it's okay, don't take one set of those girls. That's a good group. We'll use that. So we can do dynamic landscape. That's the first group. So when I go up and down, you go up and down with me, right? Here we go. Really fast. It's around, you shake it, but it's around. And sometimes I'll go out of that to complete stop. Sometimes we'll go back into the down into the groove, okay? I don't know what to do yet. You're ready to launch? We'll do some stops for a full bar, and then we'll all come back in together on the down. It'll be tricky at first. That's what we'll do. Good. So that's another way you can do it, just to give a little bit of variety. This also gives me an opportunity to, when we trade instruments, you're going to feel that some things feel easier, and sometimes there's going to be a groove where the groove that gets going, the instrument that you have doesn't, it's kind of, where do I fit in? Playing a steady beat, or playing on downbeat of each cycle of beats. That may be what you add to at that time. Sometimes the groove can get a little bit busy. I think that one was busy, but it wasn't just blurry, like they can get blurry. Sometimes it'll get blurry. And so people, well, why is that happening? Well, sometimes it can just speeding up. If it speeds up, what do? You let it speed up. And then you let it get out of control. And then it comes to a screeching halt. And you stop and you say, what happened? And they'll tell you. It got too fast. Yeah. So what do you think we can do? Let's try that groove again. What can we do differently? Not get faster. I agree. Let's try that again. And then maybe if you can maybe you can help keep that steady beat. And a good thing to do is find an instrument that no one's playing that has a really strong, like a cowbell or claves or something where they can really hear that steady beat. And you help them keep that steady beat. So they're not worried about the beat so much as being a part of the groove. But when it speeds up and out of control, let it. But another reason that it can get too blurry is because if individual players within the circle are trying to do too much. And there's a good reason for that. Think about most of the models we have for drumming. It's one drummer in a rock band who's playing everything. They're playing all the drums at once. So we think we've got to play all the different parts at once. And so the way I'll explain it to people sometimes is, imagine the drum circle is a little bit like doing a group mural, where you definitely paint your part, but then leave enough space for other people to paint their part too. And that seems to work pretty well. Let's try it again. I'm going to show you a couple of other different ways to vary the groove. Let's keep our instruments that we have, and someone else get a groove going. This is going great. Very good. All right, let's switch instruments. Okay, so we're going to integrate some scripture now because these are great, these are wonderful, they're affirming. I think all of us are smart enough and imaginative and creative enough to see kind of some of the symbolic theology about a lot of it, that sense of acceptance of diversity. Once again, I love having a diverse culture. We got things from Peru, and I wish I had a really good example of a hand-carved djembe. I just didn't bring one down, so we have this store one. But West African instruments, instruments from Brazil and Central America and the Middle East. That's from Pakistan. And I think the frogs are actually from Vietnam. From New Mexico, the Taos Pueblo. So just and claves from Cuba. So I mean, just kind of instruments from everywhere, and I love that it really sends that message. But now we're going to kind of ratchet things up a little bit. We're going to find some ways to be very overt about the way we incorporate Scripture. So let's get a groove going, and then I'll lead you through it. For just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ. For in the one Spirit we were all baptized into one body. Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and we were all made to drink of one Spirit. Indeed, the body does not consist of one member, but of many. I will go point at an instrument. For example, if I point at a big drum, everyone in the circle playing a big drum will play louder, and the rest of us will be playing softly. And then I'll invite all of us to play with me. If I point at a wood instrument, everybody who's playing the wood instrument will play loud, and they'll play softly. And then I'll invite everybody to play. Does that make sense? Everybody play? Would say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body. that would not make it any less a part of the body. And if you hear me say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less a part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, who would hear me? If the whole body were hearing, where's the sense of smell be? The whole drum circle would run around. But as it is, God arranged the members of the body, each one of them, as God chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? As it is, there are many members, yet one body. So there's one example right here. Cool, right? Isn't drum circle in and of itself just 1 Corinthians 12? I call it the Mr. Potato Head scriptures. The whole body where it knows. We all have this. We're trying to make up a whole bunch of, look at my potatoes all the time. Okay, let's do a different kind. This one takes a little bit of curation. So if you'll bring the instruments and put them back in the center. And this is where we go a little bit deep. And we start working our way deeper. And I think I've got a children's version of this in my Bible. Hey, Charlie. So while I'm getting that, why don't we pass around, get a bell of some kind. And I'll have other kinds of jinglies. So there's that, a triangle, even some finger symbols. There we go. Normally the songs would be in the middle, but this is the children's Bible. It's very New Testament oriented. So this is a little bit based on Psalm 8. Hooray for an awesome God. God made you, me, and everything else. God, you are so amazing and strong and creative. Everyone thinks so. Even babies. When I look up in the sky at night and see the moon and all those stars that you have made, it makes me extra glad that you care for me. Taking a deep breath. So we're going to do a soundscape, and I'm going to do very softly, praise God. And then the rest of you, what we're going to do is we're going to create a free rhythm. So where you're going to create the night sky. Okay? Does that make sense? So you're going to create the twinkling stars and the moon. So they're probably not all going to be in unison. So just kind of as you're feeling it, whenever you feel like you want to let your little light twinkle, let your light twinkle. Okay? Hooray for an awesome God. God made you and me and everything else. God, you are so amazing and strong and creative. Everyone thinks so, even babies. When I look up in the sky at night and see the moon and all those stars that you have made, it makes me extra glad that you care for me. You ask us to work with you, to help you take care of everything that you've made. And you have given us a job to do, God. You want us to care for the earth and everything that lives on it. All the animals and the birds, and the fish and the sea animals. Hooray for an awesome God. God made you and me and everything else. makes a nice little, not everything has to, quote, are we just going to drum? Well, yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Your kids won't ever say that, but sometimes grown-ups will be like, what? And so putting in something like that where it's a change of pace, it's for rhythm. People sometimes ask, what do you do for the kid that has no rhythm? First of all, that's insanely rare. It's often just a matter of they're trying to find a way to express it. Maybe that there's a processing issue, but that they can intellectually know the rhythms, how to get it out. So doing some free rhythm activities helps take the pressure off a little bit. Another thing that's great is to do one based on Psalm 23 and have rain sticks. And have you ever seen an ocean drum? It's this cool drum. It's like a frame drum that's closed on both sides. It's got basically ball bearings in it. And if you do it just in subtle ways, it really makes a sound of the waves. And you can do a reading of Psalm 23, all in free rhythm, and it's just so soothing and so beautiful. There are a couple of other things that you can do when you're having people who are struggling a little bit to keep in the groove or with the rhythm. You can have two children playing one drum at the same time. And put a strong one. We would do this with a choir with a section leader, right? You can have someone who's kind of a section leader and they can play a drum together. And you say, okay, watch what they're playing. Watch them play together. Another thing would be if you got, let's say, rhythm sticks, give one rhythm stick to each child and they have to play it together. And so that child with that stronger sense of rhythm is helping the other one along. And so those are some ways to adapt and accommodate so that, once again, no one is being told not to play. Well, come back. You're going to have to be in the JV version of drum circle, right? There is none. This is the one. This is the circle. Everyone, big circle, and everybody in it, right? So let's put those back in there, and I'll collect those.
Would you let them experiment with how to make different sounds before?
Yes. Thank you for asking that question. Absolutely. In fact, when I first started facilitating the drum circle just in my school environment, I was not a very good facilitator at all. There are facilitators who are amazing compared to me. But one of the things I would do was I always called it like an instrument petting zoo, and there'd be a little bit of experiment time. And then every once in a while I would show, here's some different ways to get a sound on this instrument, just so that they would know that. But yeah, there's a little bit of experimental time. I did that more in a school context, I suppose, and really kind of what got the drum circle going, as much as anything, was I just kind of the reason I started the drum circle at the school was just because I had been a part of drum circle. I felt how therapeutic it felt to be part of it. And so I was, get there early and I'd walk across the parking lot to where the outdoor playground is before school, and there were already kids on the timeout wall. I mean, school hasn't even started yet, and they're already in timeout. I'm like, oh man. And so I went to school council and I said, will you send me any repeat offenders my way, and just let them know that they want to come, hang out in Mr. Mark's room and play some drums a little bit to kind of get it out of their system. And of course, you couldn't tell me any names, but Tuesday and Friday mornings at 7:30, Mr. Burrows had the music room open and kids could come in. And it was very much just a petting zoo atmosphere, and I had no idea what I was doing or what to do. The first couple of weeks I did it, no one showed up. And then a couple of kids showed up and they played. And, they just basically kind of hung out, played the instruments and left. Then they came back, brought a couple of friends. And then they started working out rhythms that they'd heard on the radio. No, you play this. And so they'd get whatever songs were on the radio back in the mid-90s. And so they started working out. Next thing you know, it had kind of evolved. And we were starting to do drum circles. Where I took it the wrong direction is I started making a percussion ensemble instead of having them be two different things. And so I kind of took away that opportunity for that kind of free. There's a difference between playing basketball in the driveway and playing select basketball where you got to travel. One is fun and spontaneous, and the other one is soul sucking, and it's all parent driven and scholarship driven, and the kids are just miserable. I mean, so the ones who are at the top are having a ball because they're getting celebrated and winning trophies and stuff, but the rest of them are just like, oh, we have to go do this, we have to go do that. And so you need both sets of experiences, I think. All right. Did that answer that a little bit? Yeah, so you definitely, I think it's good to offer opportunities to experiment, as long as, once again, do no harm. The rule of do no harm. So here's what I want us to do. we're going to do, and I'm going to pick my instrument because I need this one to help me later on, is I want you to think about someone that you would like to hold in prayer. It can be someone who you want to celebrate, who has reached a milestone. It can be someone who received an unfortunate diagnosis, or someone you haven't seen in a long time who's just on your mind. And I want you to think about that person's name. And I want you to imagine what a rhythm, what a regular rhythm that name might have. And I want you to look at the instruments there in the middle and see if you can find an instrument that might be able you might be able to play the rhythm of that person holding in prayer. And when you have an instrument that you like to play, I invite you to come to the center and find it and take it back to you too. Start. And this is one, if you want to quietly or loudly, we're doing that. If you want to say it as you play it, if you want to say the name of that person, even if it's just kind of muttering it a little bit to yourself, you are welcome to do that. You'll say you play on my bell, forward in your mercy, and your responsibility, hear our prayer. So you say like this, forward in your mercy, hear our prayer, and then back to the rhythm of your person. Okay, does that make sense? So do that again. First time I ever tried that, I realized that I hadn't held the person I was praying for in my heart for that sustained amount of time, maybe ever. And I know we say it all the time, I'll pray for you. You'll be in my thoughts and prayers. And so whenever I'm sending an email like that, like when someone's communicating it, and I'll say, prayers are on their way. I don't even push send until I've done it. Because otherwise I'll just say the words, I'll mean well, so I don't know if I'll always get around to it. But this activity, this drum circle experience, really gives people an opportunity to hold that name for a long time. And also be in community with other people who are holding other names. And so that's one of the great reasons to come together, is to do that. I could go play my cowbell at home and play Nana. I was thinking Nana, right? But there's something special that's all come together, all holding, and then it all works because we all belong together, we're all in community together. Okay, let's put our instruments back in the center, and we're going to work our way out of it because you go deep and then you come out of it. Before we do one more groove, I wanted to tackle a couple of the questions. I think we've answered a couple of them, especially about like the obscure groove. Or the person who just, you quote, they'll feel like you just have rhythm. But it's sometimes one is that they're natural at drumming and they need everybody to know it. I just, once again, let them, what was a little tension's not going to hurt them, okay? And then we just kind of move on. And then maybe after that, if they continue to be that, when it's time to trade instruments, just make sure they get an instrument that you can do a lot of busyness with this. It's a lot harder with claw bass or just rhythm sticks that are even softer than the claw bass. So just, that's a way you can influence, giving them an instrument where they need both hands to make one singular sound. If the groove starts to slow down and starts to, then that's can often be also a good indicator that the kids are kind of ready to move on. So, okay, this groove is about played out, and you just kind of and then you can kind of bring it to a nice steady crescendo. And let it go, and just kind of taking a deep breath, and just kind of appreciate it, like we all were conducting after we've done a particularly moving slow piece, and we've released, and we would really appreciate it, especially when we're in a concert setting, if the audience would just give it a moment before they jump in with applause. Sometimes before we stop to do something else, just give it a second. Let it kind of breathe. Yeah. Okay, so now let's do one more groove. And let's use as our inspiration Psalm 100. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Come into God's presence with singing and enter God's courts with praise. So, kind of hold on to that, and that'll kind of be our inspiration. And with that in mind, pick an instrument that you think might help you express in joyful ways your love for God. It sounds regardless, but particularly when you hit it harder. Isn't that neat? That's such a unique sound. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Who'd like to start one? do this? It's totally doable, right? Fun, and making mistakes is part of the fun. You learn to go, like, okay, I'm not gonna do that again. But yeah, don't freeze out. It's just so much fun. It's so much fun. And it's just there's so much value. And it's very intergenerational friendly. It's a great thing to do with adults, youth, children. It runs the gamut. And you don't have to go into it with any pretense of working on a performance. Those can be two separate things. In fact, I highly recommend that so it doesn't become blurry. Because when the agenda becomes other than people just simply coming to the circle and finding acceptance and creativity in the momentness, then it starts to lose that kind of, yeah. Does that make sense? Any questions? Yeah.
These and like the all hands in, can you do those with the bucket drums? And
Yes. So the reason I put the buckets away, one of the things that I like about the drum circle with the hand drums is there's just that whenever you do the sticks, it can get kind of loud and get kind of busy, and it's one more thing to manage. So you can do it with found sound percussion, provided you use more like those plastic bottles. I think I showed you that sounds like a conga, or you can use the plastic bottle rattles or rhythm sticks, things that can feel where they have a closer connection to the instrument, which is I think that tends to work better than the bucket drum. It feels a little bit more like drumline, but yeah. It's a little more organic. But you can do it if you're worried about a budget or, yeah, because these are more expensive than a bucket, duh. What else?
I missed the jugs and whatever you said.
Oh, that was in a section yesterday. So, the big water bottles, like they could put from just get an empty, go find a place that dispenses those, get an empty one. It's the best conga you can get outside of a conga. It sounds amazing.
trash bins, big
The giant.
plastic.
That was just in I came in the last.
That's right. So you saw some of what those were. So you can do drum circle with those. But the buckets are a little hard, and you can play the buckets with your hand, but it's hard plastic with those rooms, so I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah, but there are analogs that you could fit into that.
Are you upside down or right side up?
Upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big bins.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then what you do is you prop it up a little bit, because once again, you don't want the hole completely covered, it won't resonate, and then you just make beaters. This is a felt. Just a piece of felt with Joanne fabric and duct tape around a dowel, and it makes a really good beater, and it's soft and it's a kind of a good bass drum kind of beater. Yeah.
What age kids did you start this with?
You can just this is really the sky's the limit with this, provided you've got a few people who can keep the groove going. What you'll notice with younger elementary is a lot of them are going to want to, if you start a groove, they're going to want to mimic whatever you play, and it'll be like a unison groove. If you can get a groove going, like if you've got one other person, and like maybe that person, so let's have anyone with a drum, we'll play this rhythm, and if you don't have a drum, you're going to keep a steady beat, okay? So bum, bum, play a steady beat, go. And that's the first step. So you got a steady beat, and that was just doing make, joyful moments. Make, joyful moments. And that's a good first step if you're doing with like early elementary, like kindergarten, first grade, doing a steady beat plus one melodic rhythm. That may be as far as you get with it, and that's okay. And then celebrate that. And swap instruments and do it again, and swap instruments and do it again, and you can still do the same dynamic soundscapes, and you can still do the rumbles, and you can still do the stops, so you can do a lot of the same stuff. It's just not quite as complex, but that works. And then as they get older, and then they start to fit things together, and even when I've been a part of drum circles, when I've been one where when you have a lot of those drummers who really get frustrated and they really want to show how good, those can really grind it to a halt more than anything else. More than just, if you bring a group of people together that simply want to just hang out and drum, that tends to work really nice. But sometimes you get one person just, we've all been in those softball or whatever league games where everybody's just having fun and one person's taking it a bit too seriously. Yeah. So, but with the kids, they'll go. And does that make sense?
Yeah, but preschoolers, like, I do a lot of the, not so much drumming, but I have a lot of different instruments that would say that, they're not up to speed.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not, yeah.
It's a lot of things, but we're trying.
Yeah, and another thing you can do this kind of gets more in an ensemble with them because you start to prescribe it. But just let them have a little free time playing and just be comfortable with the fact that it's not going to be in a rhythm, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And if that's what it sounds like, great. Or play a song on the radio that's age appropriate and play along to the song is another good way to do that. That's a good conversation starter. If you kind of in a circle and no one wants to come up with anything, that's a good conversation starter. Just play a song they know and then they'll start playing along to it. Yeah. Anything else to do with
Senior
it?
adults, I mean, obviously there's some that do that kind of issues.
Mhm.
Have you done much with senior adults?
I've done it in groups where senior adults were present. I've never done it with a group that was specifically senior adults, but I'm sure there are resources online to address that issue because some of the best facilitators are also music therapists, and music therapy is so valuable in a setting with older adults, with everybody. It doesn't matter what age, but that's a place where my brain kind of goes to. So I feel certain that's the case. It's simply a matter of just finding the right instrument for each individual person that they can be successful at. Yeah.
I'm trying to think about, one for a time, like a lunch or something, when you're going
I
to
think
the
so.
program.
I think they would love it. This transcends age, I
I'm
think.
thinking teacher in service, actually. Because
Sure.
nobody likes to sing sometimes, like some of my competitors, they're like, they won't, I'm like, no, you do it.
Mhm.
So, but when we get together, here, do this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's.
Play it.
And we'll do
Good.
prayer group like in the morning sometimes.
He's wonderful for that. He's wonderful for that. No, that's great. Good. Good.
This is so cool.
Yeah. Thank you guys very much. Yeah.